Richardson's going through this, he's already given us the biblical imagery of Abraham and Melchizedek, and so we have this idea that God is reaching people who don't have access to all that we do, revealed scriptures, traditions, history, none of that just shows up. And that's just out of the blue, it seems. And then in this particular section, because this is all about the lost book, then we have a whole different thing going on. So, lost people. And so I'm going to put this up there. We use that phrase sometimes to mean people who don't know Jesus, don't know about the gospel, don't know what God has revealed, and so they're lost people. I want to take that concept and say there are 8 billion plus people on the planet, and the Lord knows every one of them by name. They're not lost to him. He knows where they are. He knows who they are. He knows their grandparents. He is just fully aware. And so in that sense, they're not lost. They are just separated from God, far from God. So what is it that God thought would be a really good thing for these groups of people? That's where we are in this section. What would be the thing that would be important to get to them? And Richardson is a linguist. He's a Bible translator. So he's been in Irian Jaya. That's where he and his wife were. So they got to come up with the book. And that's our group of stories that we have in this thing. The book. So the book, trying to find the gospel in the Bible. But here's this thing. Here's these people who are being exposed to, in spiritual ways, revealed to them that there would be a book coming. And in almost every story, white people bringing it. And they're going, we don't know white people. What are you even talking about? Because these tribes or these people didn't know any. And then this book, and they're going, no, God said the real God, the true God, is going to bring a book. So tell me about the stories. Which one? We got the Karen to start with, the Karen of Burma. What do you think about those guys? They get the longest story in here anyway. What do you think of them?
That was really interesting. They were looking for the white man to come and bring them the white book. And they believed in God. And they thought, that was going to tell them about God. So they waited for that. It's amazing that, that need was there. They saw the need.
Yeah. And God communicated to them.
And it finally did come.
And they came. Yeah.
And the name being Yahweh, I don't know how they
it's so close.
It, it's so close. And then I really like the evil spirits called gnats. I thought that was very fitting.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that. But how cool it is that they didn't wholly go with Buddhism. They were surrounded by so many other things.
And they didn't go with it.
They didn't.
Yeah. I like their poetry. Yahweh formed the world originally. Yeah. He appointed food and drink. He appointed the fruit of trial. Yeah, he did. Bummer. But he gave detailed orders. It just, Mukali deceived 2 persons. And you go, this is very familiar. But it's part of the story.
About, eating the fruit and the evil fruit and that kind of thing. It's actually like the Garden of Eden.
Yeah. So these stories are being passed through the cultures because these guys all started out, these are all Noah's kids. They just wound up wandering over to Burma. Yeah, it really is an incredible story.
I did love it. He didn't touch on it quite yet, I don't think, but fascinated with him thinking that they predate
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, the stories have been around.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and they've traveled everywhere. Because God sent them out. That's what we got in Genesis 11. Y'all go, because you can't understand each other.
That's what I thought was cool too, that the missionaries learn their language to be able to speak to them and their, testament in their language.
In their language. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is. And it's just a testimony to God's showing up. I mean, these stories have been in these cultures, and it's around the world. So it's not just close to the Middle East, it's everywhere. And those stories have taken off. That's why we're getting to see this in here. And it's, the book is revealed, and what he's indicating to us here, remember when we read through Romans 1, that God has revealed himself through creation. He has revealed himself through his son. He's revealed himself through the revelation, through the book, through the prophets. But he's revealed himself through creation sufficiently that no one has an excuse for not knowing God. So everyone has an opportunity to know him. And then in this case, the more specific is the revelation, the book, being able to get his stories to further understand who he is and what he does and how he does it. But they get every story is about him revealing himself and then sending these missionaries. So you go, okay, so somebody on the other side of the planet, white people, get this message to go to this place, go help translate this thing. These tribes or this group of people are getting information from God, or it's in their culture and they've been told for centuries that this is coming, and they're looking forward to it with hope. So this is primarily to point at the group of Christians which we maybe have been saying, the only thing you can do is you have to be Jewish, and you have the Bible, and apart from that, without that printed book, you got nothing. He was telling them the book's coming, there's more, but the people who already knew this Yahweh in this case already knew the one true God. So he's revealing himself in ways that were outside of the normal Western American Christian version of how this thing works, which is like so cool. Because God his hands aren't tied. He's able to communicate, he's able to reveal, and he's done it through things like this, through these missionaries. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, we got the story of it's just Genesis 1, 2, and 3 right there with the Karen. Let's see what else we got in there. Yeah, and their prophets, the Karen prophets, surrounded by Buddhism in Burma, and their prophets said, children and grandchildren, do not worship idols or priests. If you worship them, you obtain no advantage thereby, while you increase your sins exceedingly. And then it goes through a list of things that looks a whole lot like things we would read in the scriptures. That is so cool. Yeah, there's some good stuff happening with them.
And they also had a song
Of hope.
The Song of Hope Hills. Yeah.
It was interesting, I can't remember where it was it wasn't maybe with the story of the Karen, but what Richardson pointed out is they were all looking for a word of mercy.
Mm.
And then he talked about in the Buddha, or the Buddha writing, that one would come, a fifth one, I don't really know.
Fifth Buddha, yeah.
And it would be the Lord of mercy, and then you would worship him and not, and I thought, wow.
So, yeah, they weren't bothered to include that. But Buddha means enlightenment. So,
Right.
so this fifth enlightenment is going to be,
Is the one.
that's the one.
Lord of mercy. anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll take that.
yes.
Let's see the. So the Karen people, rascals that they were, negligently lost their copy of Yahweh's book. Yeah, those guys. Yeah. The rice cakes, yeah. That's another way to, yeah. It's so cool how all of these little pieces fit.
They all, that, it says, God that we lost it, but this is white brothers. On the other hand, carefully preserved their copy.
Which is awesome. Carefully preserved it. So they hand copied this thing all these years because it says anciently that they had the white foreigners had this anciently. And you go, yep. And they were copying by hand till the 1450s. And they have printing press, and then they can crank them out. And you go, wow. And that was really when the whole missions enterprise just starts taking off after we get printed. And we got the approval of different countries, kings mainly, to say it's okay to have it in your own language as opposed to Latin. You go, okay, we won't burn you at the stake anymore. You can, yeah, you can make that in your own language. Which said, okay, other people need it in their language, and that opens the door. Karen people. And there's catching people. Like you run out through the hills and you catching them. I don't know. All right. That's a whole different group. Look at the name. Karakasang, supernatural being. These are. I mean, these guys just really are connected with the Creator. The Great Spirit, they lost their book was lost. I love how he's building up the tension because he keeps asking, who's going to restore the lost book for these different people? All right, there's going to be more chapters in this book. Answer the questions. Yeah, that one was cool. You got some of the Lehu people between China and Thailand, and a number of people in there. Oh, that was the rice cake one. Got rice cakes happening in this one. Yeah, the gnats are the evil ones, dark spirits. What did you think? Let's just put that up there. So we got the book. It's not working. There we go. Now, if somebody had come to you a few years ago and said, so what do you think about evil spirits? Is that a thing, not a thing? Is that we're modern Christians, so that's just a superstition. That's something the ignorant and unlearned in some other country believe. What do you think? A few years ago, what would you have thought about spirits? Is that what you believed? I'm not asking what you believe now because we've covered this. Don't be cheating. few years ago.
A lot of people think, and I thought, I guess, that it was mental illness, what we describe as mental illness.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up around that, and I never would have thought about evil spirits. I would have thought very, I wanted someone else for a mother. I wanted, things was crazy. But looking back on my life, you can really see the horror, between childhood and so on. It's just
Yeah.
not amazing. It's horrific to think what people, or how people behaved.
Mm-hmm.
Grandparents, great-grandparents, it's just, and thank God not everyone grew up like that, or had to go through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Because if you're around it, and it can be this rather than, there's real mental illness, and then there's mental
Right.
illness caused by these guys. Yeah.
Yeah, years ago, I think we're totally aware there were evil spirits or demonic things, but they weren't near.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that, but it just didn't seem, I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't realize how in the midst of it we are. I thought it was away.
Yeah.
I didn't either. I didn't realize it, but I look back and I can see how God looked after me. The
Take
people,
that.
The people in my life, it was like a whole community looking after us in a way, and friends. It was amazing.
A lot of people say that God is distant and doesn't care about, that's why they don't believe in God, is because he's distant, he's just, kind of out there, and that's how I felt demons and evil spirits were, like, they're out there, I know they exist, and people may have told me stories about their experience with them, but it was not, they weren't involved in my life, they had no bearing on anything I did, and that is so not true. I think that might have been a lie from the devil.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, so let's go with that. Okay, distant. And some of that is, those people, when the missionaries go out and they come back, they have stories. So obviously, Africa, South America, Amazon, you just go, they got demons. But not America, because, we're smart. Not smart enough to know it. Wow. Okay. That could be. That's one that for parents, if they don't call it right, they go to their kids who are going, there's something under the bed, something in the closet, something moved over there, and they go, no, it's just your imagination, calm down, go to the bathroom, here's some water, hush. And eventually the kid goes, oh, okay, that thing over there is not real, I just got, but I can't say anything. I'm scared to death, but I can't say anything. And I'm not getting up to go to the bathroom because I got to walk past it, so I'm going to wet the bed. Now I'm going to get beat in the morning because I wet the bed. Because there was a thing in there, but you told me it wasn't. Thank you, Mom, Dad, for thinking it's all in my imagination. But it's a belief system. Yeah.
One thing I've changed or learned was that years ago I would have thought that all evil spirits were the same power, not thinking of my hierarchy or they're all just the same thing. But it's one of the things that we've learned. Yeah. There's different levels, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, way different. So, yeah. Same level. And a lot of times the idea that, well, angels, we might go with angels because they sound safe. So we can talk about that. But the other side of this, we don't really want to get into, like to keep that at a distance. And then the more, like we've spent some time in the scriptures, you go, it's pretty common in the scriptures. It keeps coming back to, you got to deal with these things. Our battle's not with flesh and blood. Well, we're going to pretend these don't exist, and we're just going to deal with flesh and blood. And we got to have some kind of a committee meeting about what color to paint the women's bathroom. That's what we got to deal with. And Sister Sally over there is difficult. She's always wanting pink, and we can't have that. That's our fight. You go, really? Because this is the one the scripture keeps talking about. And then everybody that we're reading about in here has confronted them, and they've been led astray, and they've been attacked. And then in their history, they've got this common thread of the one true God that ties them together, that has something to say about him. Cool. But yeah, we've minimized this. These guys get the book, and they find out the gospel. They find out the truth. They find out what Jesus is up to and what he's about. So that group of people, that tribe, that nation, whatever, is now taking off with, and they go, well, this book makes sense because we are dealing with this. We're dealing with the spirits. We're dealing with, and then if you have very westernized missionaries who say you must follow our traditions, and this becomes, well, it's just mental illness. They're just distant. They're not real. It's in your imagination. And you go, wow, these guys have family members and a history of centuries of dealing with these things, and now we're telling them, no, that's not real. You go, well, how long are they going to stick to the gospel's real, that God's actually the God of all, that he has sent angelic forces to be on our side? But they're being told that this is all imaginary. The real thing is just having the book and doing the rational thing and building nice cathedrals and do that. Wow. It is a different kind of approach anyway. Who else we got in here? Bless you.
I forget what tribe it was. It had to do with the headhunters.
The
How the boys.
the way or the wa or something. Yeah.
They didn't really wanna hurt anybody.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
when the sons grew up, it's just amazing what God did, how that turned around. How many of us would want to go around cannibals, headhunters? I mean, there are other tribes around the pit was afraid.
Well, yeah.
So
But they're planting crop at the same time.
I know, and it was a sad deal at times. too.
Put their heads in with the crops.
But that changed, and I thought that was awful cool. What God did way out yonder.
Wait, yeah. That one is nuts. Yeah, that's kind of a bizarre system. Well, we're going to invite you over for dinner, but we're going to have to take your head.
Or to send your children out to pick on them or whatever. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
our kids wouldn't listen to us that well. I don't believe it at times.
It really is. The ideas of that, because those spirits are leading them to do that kind of stuff. So the people who are led to grab an AR-15, run into school and shoot people, they're not bothered by spirits. It's always mental illness and the fact that they accessed a weapon. That's all that is, always. So our solution is we need better access to mental health, and we need to take guns away from all Americans so that guns do not exist here. Now the problem is these guys exist. That does happen, but these guys push that button, and all of a sudden the guy, because when they interview people, often, not all of them, they interview people and you go, that was the sweetest dude, always helping everybody, and the family's going, I don't know, little Johnny was just a good kid, and then one day he goes and you go, that's different than the ones who are planning and the evil is in there. That's a different thing. But these like bam, you go. So what happened? The one we just recently had, just our neighbor, that teenager takes her own life. You got Christian family, apparently very loved by the community, the school, just all of it, and now gone. Who told her that her life wasn't worth it? And it's not from God. It's not from the peeps around her. But these guys get in your head. And they'll do that. And if you've had those moments where you're just driving down the road, man, I just want to drive into that bridge abutment or that tree or something, and it flashes, and you go, that's just a dumb thought. And fortunately, you didn't listen. Some people do listen. And then you go, why? I don't understand. The guy just drove into a bridge abutment. Yep. Not that kind of mental illness. This kind of guided mental illness.
I was thinking the cannibals, that's kind of a Passover from the Nephilim, who the spirit
Yes.
of eating people.
Yes. It identifies with them, and it continues that whole practice. Yeah. And they want to take their, whatever they've got, they'll take their food, and then they'll take them and eat them too, or sacrifice them. They sacrifice them to appease spirits who are, you notice the theme in this thing too of the spirits that they're appeasing. It's not like God on high and you're giving a thanks offering. If you read, through Leviticus or something, you go, well, half of this is just, thanks, Lord, for providing and giving us grain and other things. What is it for these guys? It's to appease them, to keep them off your back.
Yeah.
It's a different. We know there's a one true God out there, but he's nice to us. We don't have to worry about him. These guys, however, yeah. So we're going to have to cut your head off because these guys are scary. But then we come back to the Western thing and go, no, that's just mental illness distant in our imagination. You go, wow, the devil's done a good job of hiding.
I thought it was interesting, that one thing that they said, well, why should we worship that God? Because he hasn't ever done anything to harm us.
Yeah.
So, why should we sacrifice to him? Because he's okay.
Yeah, it's those other guys.
Right, these guys are tearing us up.
Yeah.
You gotta satisfy them.
And the people of the WA,
Yeah.
that he had a dream that he saw a pony, and the pony was supposed to lead him to the white man, because he didn't want him to have to walk back for that, so the pony led him so he could ride the pony back, but he led the pony back to the tribe where he could have it with the book.
Isn't that cool? The pony goes down there. So cool. Yeah, let's go get that guy and give him a ride. It is.
But they didn't want him to walk, because it might have been a real long distance to
Yeah.
walk in there.
And God is at work giving this information to these people. He reveals, he speaks, he's moving upon whole tribes or nations of people and showing himself on their behalf so that they can have a relationship with him. It is so cool, all the stuff that he's doing. And most of these that we've seen are like 1800s in this group of folks. So that's, God was at work just trying to get the word out to some folks in an area we just didn't even never heard of. Yeah. It's really I think it just confirms Romans 1. That's just, that he has revealed himself to people around the world, all places, everywhere, and we have an opportunity to respond to him. Other beings get in the way, other deities, or these guys get in the way and try to distract. And then once we kind of track with them, we get distracted too. We go with it, because just like our view of spirits, you go, man, that's sweeping across generations of people in the West, Europe and America. And you go, wow, no knowledge of them, reading the same Bible that says this is a big deal, and totally pretending like, no, that's not real. It's the only thing that matters is social justice, and you kind of miss the opportunity to see that God has something greater for everyone, and He's revealing Himself, and He's doing it in this as we read through these stories. Who else we got? The fifth manifestation of Buddha, that's the Shan people. The Lord of mercy. Mercy. Okay. That book, their old book, did you see that one? Every valley shall be exalted, every mountain shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, the rough places plain. And you go, wow. That's page 88.
79 and 79.
Oh, different. The Shan people. Yeah. It's like,
Also interested in the Shan people, when they build a new home, they build an extra room for him to come,
Oh,
you know, become, so they would, and they cleaned it regular, nobody stayed in that room, and they cleaned it regular, saved it just for him.
for him, yeah.
Yeah,
That is cool.
kept a lamp on,
Don't know when the Lord of Mercy's coming. Yeah, these little tidbits that are in these cultures is so awesome. Yeah, they got the Kui people of Thailand, Burma, got those guys with the houses of worship dedicated to the true God, waiting for some people to show up with a lost book. And some of these, you're going, okay, these tribes left. They had to leave the Middle East, or got the stories about this unless God revealed just directly. If they moved from the Middle East after Genesis 11, there wasn't any book yet. We don't have a book till after Moses. So you go, well, did they leave later? And they knew that there were some scrolls out there? But this is talking about, a whole book, because some of it talks about the sun. And you go, oh, that's New Testament. Holy moly. And these tribes have been out there for a while, for centuries. There's a big change. Yeah. A lot of people in them. It's
Yeah, it's amazing the number of people.
yeah. And that's a group, has a particular culture, history, connection with God, and a language that's different from everybody else's. Wow. The Laisu people, we got those guys. We got a book of the true God written in the Laisu. They're just waiting. These guys are waiting for that true book, or the book of God, to come.
He pointed out that what's amazing about that too is they didn't even have an alphabet yet.
Yeah.
Much less anything printed, but they believed the book would come.
That would have all of that in their language. Yeah, that's a reach. We don't have an alphabet yet, but we're going to have a book. Sure.
Even know what a book was. I mean, it had
How did they? Yeah, somebody did. Those are good ones. You've got, yeah, and the supreme God is at work in so many cultures, so many ways, he's just making himself known. I love this. Let me look at this real quick. So how does, when you think of the reaching neighbors, telling people in just in the culture, how in this day and time would this kind of information help you to connect or understand what God might want to do among your family, your friends? How would God use you to communicate to people around you, knowing these things, that this happened to these different tribes? You have a different concept of what that might mean.
It does prove that the oral tradition is very important. And even though we do have the written word everywhere, but if we don't speak of it. So I think of my grandchildren, and Tim and Caitlin are not opposed to God at all, and they visited church a couple of times, but they don't regularly go. And I just have this little fear that those kids won't hear the stories. And so I need to be sure when I'm with them to speak about them. I don't think Tim and Caitlin would mind at all, but if they don't have even though they have access to it all, I think they need to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to keep passing it on, talk to our neighbors, talk about it, bring it up. I don't know, just the reality. I know that living it is supreme, but we must also speak it so that there's a name for what we live. Or people might not know why we do the things we do or live the
Yeah.
way we live.
Yeah, some connection to the one true God. Yeah.
I think there's also something to be said for listening to other people when they discuss their culture, because if people had just gone in to these cultures and just ramrodded them or bulldozed them and not learned that they already had a name and already knew the supreme God, I think in chapter 1 it talked about, like, the white man was talking about the same thing, but he didn't bother to learn that they already had it. They
Yeah.
just didn't know. And so maybe the people we're talking to already have a name or already do some things, just maybe not the way we would, or it's not our tradition, and we need to be more open to a back and forth conversation and learning about them as much as we want them to learn about us.
Conversation's always a good idea.
Not a bad one.
Just being kind to me and putting a smile on your face. You see so many people in a hurry and not taking the time to speak or to say hi. You don't know what they've been through or whatever, so a smile can do wonders for someone and you may not even realize it.
Yeah, that may be the
But
day they
God
need
sees
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. God is again, he knows everybody's name. He knows where everybody is all over this planet. He's keeping track. Yeah, and the more we can do that, and be real, shine as he's worked in us, that reality. And yeah, point them to him. The book's good. We've got one of those. We can pass that around. Let's pray. Father, thanks for this time. Thanks for getting us started on this Sunday morning. We appreciate your patience with us, your presence with us, your provision for us. And ask that you would guide us in the hours we have ahead. In Jesus' name, amen.